Howdy, Phil, and welcome. Today we're going to be taking a look at John chapter 5, verses 8 through 10. But first, last time in John. Here is the rubric, everything that we look for as we go through the text. Not enough space for it, though. Maybe next video I'll have a different location to record all in one video. Let's get started. Legei autoi ho Jesus egere aron ton krabaton su kai peripatei, kai euthus egeneto hugies ho anthropos kai eren ton krabaton autu kai periepatei. En de sabaton in enen ekene te hemerai. Elegon un hoi judaioi toi tetherapeoumenoi sabaton esti, kai uk exesti soi arai ton krabaton su. And there we go, after some fumbling along. Lege, we've seen enough times that we don't need to parse it. Likewise, autoi and ho Jesus, we know that he's the subject because of the article right there. And, oh yeah, sorry, it's been more than a week since I recorded. I forgot that even touching the table shakes the camera, so I'm going to have to go through and talk through their forms before actually writing it down. Egere, here we have our epsilon at the end. This is not an augmenting vowel at the beginning. That's part of the stem, so that epsilon tells us that it is an imperative form off of the present stem. It's going to be second person singular. And then aron, we have another imperative form. This comes from airo, alpha, iota, rho, omega. So this omicron nu is the second person singular aorist imperative form of that. Ton krabaton we've seen beforehand. Ton tells us that it's going to be masculine, and omicron nu accusative singular as the object of aron. Su with that omicron upsilon there is the possessive pronoun, owning krabaton. And then kai connecting peripate to the rest of the clause. We have epsilon iota here, which is a contraction of two epsilons, because the verb is peripateo. So the imperative form, same as egere, would meld with the connecting vowel, not the connecting vowel, the vowel at the end of the stem of this epsilon contract verb, and we get epsilon iota, which pulls the accent from the iota where it ought to have been originally over to the alpha. So this is just a second person singular present imperative. And I'm going to write everything down and join you again shortly. Okay. In entry into verse 9, we have eutheos, that omega sigma there is an adverb. Immediately, this is a word that we find very often in Mark. Ageneto we've seen a number of times beforehand as well. Epsilon tau omicron is our imperfect third person singular form. Hugies, eta sigma there, which we talked about, I think, last Greek video, is our nominative singular form for the word that means like well or whole. Ho anthropos, our subject, don't need to parse that. Kai, eren, this is going to be the same form as aron, same verb as aron, but with the augmenting vowel included this time, so we know that it is going to be an indicative. Epsilon nu tells us that it's third person singular. Ton krabaton, again, our accusative object. Autu, possessive, kai, periepatei. That epsilon is another augmenting vowel coming between the stem and the prefix. And this just tells us that it's the imperfect form of the verb with the third person singular. We've got the same contraction going on here, same movement of the accent because of the contraction in epsilon iota, which I forgot to write up there. So that is the form of all of those words right there, and I'll write the translation and join you again momentarily. So notably, ageneto is imperfect tense, which typically means that we have something that's beginning or incomplete or habitual, but it's not going to be habitual here since this is him just doing it. So I think inceptive is a possibility here. He began to become well. Yeah, I don't know, though, if that would mean that he was not healed completely at once, but it took moments, maybe John and company, as they were watching this happen, actually saw his legs restored over the course of a few seconds. I don't know. That's what that could indicate, but then again, it could just be John putting it in the past tense and making it more vivid for us as a active, ongoing event. Moving on. Ein de Sabaton and Koine te haimerai. We've got all these sub-iotas here with the preposition en, where they taking dative, and this is going to be dative of time within which I think it would mean. Remembering all of the names. I think I complain about this every single time. Sorry, I'll stop. Ein, this is from Amy. This is going to be the third person singular imperfect form. We've seen it enough times that I shouldn't really need to parse it with Sabaton, our neuter noun, as the subject. But I'm not going to write that down yet. I'm going to go ahead and let's finish through the end. Or no, let's finish through right there. Elegon, we have a augmenting vowel at the beginning, but lambda, epsilon, gamma there, our present stem, tells us that this is the imperfect tense. Omicron, nu, with hoi, eudaioi, tells us that this is the third person plural imperfect tense. Them is our subject. Toi tetherapeoumenoi, sub-iota, especially on the article, tells us that this is dative, as the indirect object of elegon. Tetherapeoumenoi, with this tau epsilon reduplication at the beginning, off of the verb therapeuo, and then the mu epsilon nu, changed to the stem, tells us that this is a perfect and then participle, dative singular masculine, referring to our now formerly paralyzed man. I'll join you again shortly. So note also that since we have this in imperfect, it could be that the Jews began to speak to him, or that the Jews were speaking to him continually, maybe bugging him for a long time. Either one works, but inceptive is probably the better of the two options, since this all is very new to everybody. Sabaton, we already know, neuter. Estin, paired with that, our third person singular present, tells us that this is our subject. Kai uk ex estin, this is a impersonal verb. It means it is authority, right, or lawful. It is out of. I'm not really sure how the Greeks get the impersonal meaning. It is permitted from the preposition, the preposition ex and the verb to be. I don't know, it's pretty weird. But we have our same form of estin here as here. Soy, dative of, this would be dative of reference with ex estin. So then it is for you or for your advantage. Ex esti would take the dative, which a lot of verbs that have the prefixed prepositions do. Arai, here we have still our aorist stem from airo, which I realized I forgot to write up there, so I'll have to add that in. Alpha iota here is going to be our aorist infinitive. And then ton krabaton as our object again, and su owning that. Join you again shortly. Okay, and there we have it. Note that I put lawful here rather than permitted or allowed, because we're talking about the Jews. We're talking about the tradition of the elders, what the rabbis, the Pharisees from the Babylonian captivity passed on to the Jews of the day of Jesus, where they are, in this case, not necessarily adding what they claim are the unspoken laws, since in, which one is it? I think it appears in Exodus and probably also in Leviticus. Or no. Is Exodus and Deuteronomy are the ones that introduce the two different versions of the Ten Commandments, just the two different orders, really. And it's, you shall honor the Sabbath day by keeping it holy. Well, what does that mean? You shall do no work on the Sabbath, is how they interpreted it. So picking up a bed is work. But then we have to ask, well, what really is the purpose of the Sabbath? And I don't know if it's in this specific tale that Jesus will say, but in one of the Gospels, Jesus tells them that the Sabbath was made for man and not man for the Sabbath. What's the purpose of the Sabbath? The purpose of the Sabbath is the day devoted devoted to studying, learning, hearing, reading, marking, learning God's word, which is for man. And the daily work, working in the fields beyond what is necessary, letting your animals loose, pulling your animals out of the ditch if they fall in, except for those, I should say, gets in the way of man's studying of God's word. Now, pulling your animal out of the ditch, letting your animal loose to go graze, that's necessary, and it's for the well-being of the animal, and it is for you. And this does not violate God's command to honor the Sabbath day, because when you take care of your animals, you are fulfilling your vocation. You are honoring God by taking care of the part of his creation that he has given to you as steward. But in this case, God himself has told this guy, pick up your bed and walk. And if God says to do something, even if it seems on the surface to violate God's own law, you don't argue. Well, thank you very much for joining me. Let's take a look at it from its beginning, and then you have a good week. Says to him, Jesus, arise, pick up your bed, and walk. And immediately was becoming well the man, and he picked up his bed and began to walk. But it was Sabbath in that day. Therefore the Jews were saying, or began to say to the man having been healed, it is Sabbath, and it is not lawful for you to pick up your bed. Thank you very much. I've already told you have a good day, so have a good week. Farewell.